The message arrived on a quiet Tuesday morning at SETI's primary facility in New Mexico. Dr. Sarah Chen was running routine maintenance on the quantum array when every system simultaneously lit up with activity. The signal wasn't the random noise of stellar phenomena or the regular pulses of a pulsar. It was a clear, structured transmission using patterns that could only be artificial. Director Hayes, Sarah's voice carried across the control room. "We've got something you need to see." The facility director, Marcus Hayes, appeared at her station within moments, coffee forgotten in his hand. On the main screen, complex mathematical sequences unfolded in perfect progression. It wasn't just a signal, it was a primer for communication, followed by what could only be a distress call. 3 days later, Sarah stood before the United Nations Security Council, explaining what they'd discovered. The message came from an advanced coalition of species called the Galactic Concordat. They had been watching humanity's development from afar, planning to make contact once Earth achieved certain technological benchmarks. But circumstances had forced their hand. "They're facing an unprecedented crisis," Sarah explained, her hand steadied as she manipulated the holographic display. "A series of quantum rifts have begun appearing throughout their core territories. These rifts emit radiation that renders their most advanced technologies useless. Quantum computers, AI systems, neural interfaces, everything they rely on simply stops working." The chamber erupted in murmurs. Admiral James Chen, no relation to Sarah, leaned forward. "Why come to us? We're centuries behind their level of development." Sarah smiled. "That's exactly why. Our primitive technology is immune to the quantum interference. They need our help because we still know how to solve problems without relying on artificial intelligence and quantum systems." The irony wasn't lost on anyone in the room. Humanity's backward technology and hands-on approach to problem-solving had suddenly become their greatest asset. Within weeks, humanity launched their first official response. The retrofitted carrier U.S. Endeavour, commanded by Captain Maya Rodriguez, prepared for humanity's first intentional venture into deep space. The ship had been stripped of its most advanced systems, replaced with hardened analog equipment and mechanical backups that would have looked more at home in the late 20th century. The Concordat's representatives, watching from their massive ship in high Earth orbit, were visibly confused by what they saw as technological regression. The crystalline being serving as their primary ambassador, who called itself Herald, expressed concern. "Your vessel appears inadequate," Herald commented, its crystalline form refracting light in patterns that the translation matrix interpreted as worry. "The rifts have destroyed our most sophisticated ships." Captain Rodriguez stood on her bridge, addressing the alien delegation through a hardened video link. "With all due respect, Herald, that's exactly why we're going with the basics. Sometimes, the old ways are the best ways." The Endeavour's crew of 300 was a unique mix of seasoned space veterans and specialists in obsolete technologies. They had engineers who could repair mechanical systems without computer assistance, navigators trained to plot courses with physical charts and astronomical tables, and communication officers who knew Morse code. As the ship prepared for departure, Sarah Chen, now serving as the mission's chief sinolinguist, made a final check of her mechanical typewriter and paper notebooks. The Concordat's representatives had been baffled by these archaic tools, but she knew that when the quantum rifts knocked out their tablets and neural interfaces, these simple tools would prove invaluable. The launch countdown began, and Captain Rodriguez addressed her crew. "We're about to make history, not just for Earth, but for the entire galaxy." They called us primitive, underdeveloped, not ready for the galactic community. Today, we prove that humanity's greatest strength isn't our technology. It's our ability to adapt, to think differently, and to never give up when others need our help. The Endeavour's chemical rockets ignited, a technology the Concordat had abandoned millennia ago in favor of quantum drives. As the ship rose through Earth's atmosphere, Herald transmitted one final message. "We still question the wisdom of this approach, but we admire your species' courage." May your primitive methods prove more successful than our advanced ones." Rodriguez smiled as she replied, "Sometimes the oldest solutions are the best ones. Humanity had to solve problems long before we had computers and quantum physics. We haven't forgotten those lessons, and that's exactly why we're going to succeed where others have failed." As the Endeavour disappeared into the depths of space, the Concordat's representatives watched in silence, still uncertain whether humanity's backwards approach would work. They were about to learn that true advancement isn't always about having the most sophisticated technology. Sometimes it's about remembering the fundamentals that got you there in the first place. The Endeavour's first encounter with a quantum rift came 3 weeks into their journey. The massive tear in spacetime stretched before them like a writhing curtain of violet energy, its edges crackling with impossible mathematics. "All hands, this is the captain." Rodriguez's voice echoed through the ship's analog intercom system. "Prepare for rift approach. Shut down all quantum-based systems and switch to mechanical backups." Chief Engineer Jack Torres watched as his team methodically powered down the ship's modern systems. Screens went dark, replaced by analog gauges and mechanical readouts. The ship's auxiliary systems, running on technology that would have been familiar to submarine crews from the 1960s, hummed to life. "Engineering reports ready, Captain." Torres called through the speaking tube, a system that had drawn laughs from the Concordat observers, but now proved its worth as electronic communications failed near the rift. Dr. Chen sat at her station, carefully transcribing readings onto paper with her mechanical typewriter. The quantum rift's effect on advanced technology was immediate and dramatic. Around them, the few Concordat ships that had dared to follow stopped dead in space, their quantum drives rendered useless. "Picking up a signal, Captain," Communications Officer Yuki Tanaka reported, her fingers flying over a Morse key. "It's from the Concordat research vessel. They're trapped inside the rift's influence." The Helios, a Concordat science vessel, had ventured too close to study the rift. Now it hung motionless in space, its crew kept alive only by emergency systems that were rapidly failing. Their distress signal, transmitted through ancient radio waves, painted a dire picture. "Their life support has maybe 48 hours, Rodriguez announced to her bridge crew. "Anyone want to back out?" The response was immediate and unanimous. Humanity's first deep space rescue mission was a go. As they approached the rift's edge, the differences between human and Concordat approaches became stark. The alien vessel was a marvel of quantum engineering, but now those same advanced systems were its greatest weakness. The Endeavour, running on nuclear power and mechanical systems, pushed forward where the aliens' technology failed. "Herald's calling us insane," Tanaka reported from her communication station, a slight smile on her face as she translated the incoming radio signals. "They say approaching the rift in a vessel as primitive as ours is suicide." "Tell them that's exactly why it's going to work," Rodriguez replied. "Sometimes the simplest solution is the best one." The rescue operation would push their retrofitted systems to their limits. The Endeavour's mechanical winches and steel cables, technology that hadn't seen widespread space use in centuries, would have to pull the massive alien vessel to safety. Torres and his engineering team worked frantically to modify their equipment for the task. They fabricated new components using manual lathes and welding torches, making adjustments that no computer would have conceived. "This is why we train with the basics," Torres explained to a group of Concordat engineers watching via radio link. "When everything else fails, you need to know how things work at their most fundamental level." The rescue attempt began 20 hours later. The Endeavour approached the stricken vessel using pure Newtonian physics, calculated by hand, and plotted on paper charts. Lieutenant Sarah Martinez, the ship's navigator, worked with mechanical calculators and slide rules, computing their trajectory with methods that would have been familiar to NASA engineers from the Apollo era. Approaching final position, Martinez called out, her eyes fixed on mechanical instruments. 300 meters, 200, 100. The Endeavour's massive grappling arms, powered by hydraulics rather than electromagnetic systems, extended toward the Helios. The alien crew watched in amazement as humanity's primitive technology proved more reliable than their quantum-based systems. Contact established. Torres reported through the speaking tube. Beginning emergency power transfer. The Endeavor's nuclear generators, technology the Concordat had abandoned millennia ago, pumped life-giving power into the alien vessel's emergency systems. Through the viewing ports, the crew could see lights flickering back to life aboard the Helios. Their life support is stabilizing, Chen reported, reading from handwritten notes. The Concordat crew. They're thanking us. They say they never imagined their salvation would come from technology they considered obsolete. Rodriguez stood at her command station, watching as her crew demonstrated humanity's greatest strength, the ability to solve problems with whatever tools were available. Sometimes moving forward means remembering where you came from, she transmitted to both her crew and the watching Concordat ships. Today we prove that progress isn't just about having the most advanced technology. It's about understanding the principles behind it. As the Endeavor began the delicate process of towing the Helios to safety, the watching Concordat vessels transmitted a message that would soon become famous throughout the galaxy. Perhaps we have misunderstood the nature of advancement. Humanity has shown us that true sophistication lies not in abandoning the old ways, but in knowing when to use them. With the Helios secured, the real challenge began. The quantum rift was expanding, threatening to engulf entire star systems. The Concordat's most advanced monitoring equipment had failed to provide any useful data about the phenomenon's nature or cause. Now, humanity's obsolete methods would be put to the ultimate test. Dr. Chen worked alongside the rescued Concordat scientists in a makeshift laboratory aboard the Endeavor. The aliens were initially skeptical of the primitive equipment, optical microscopes, chemical analyzers, and mechanical measuring devices, but their doubts began to fade as the human approach yielded results. "Look at this," Chen said, pointing to a series of hand-drawn wave patterns. "When we analyze the rift's radiation using purely mechanical spectrometers, we can see patterns that your quantum sensors missed completely." The lead Concordat scientist, a being of pure energy who called itself luminous, hovered over the papers in fascination. "Our advanced sensors were too precise," it admitted. "We were looking for quantum-level interactions when the answer was visible at a much larger scale." Captain Rodriguez called an emergency meeting in the ship's conference room. The walls were covered with paper charts and diagrams, a sight that still drew curious looks from their alien guests. "The rifts aren't random," Torres explained, using a mechanical projector to display his findings. "They're following a pattern we've seen before, in fluid dynamics. The same mathematics that describe how water moves through pipes might help us understand these tiers in spacetime." The Concordat scientists were stunned. The solution to one of the greatest crises in their history might lie in principles they had considered too basic to be relevant. Lieutenant Martinez stepped forward, spreading out a large star chart on the conference table. "If we're right, we can predict where the next rifts will appear. More importantly, we might be able to prevent them." The plan that emerged was audacious. Using principles of fluid dynamics and mechanical engineering, the human crew proposed treating spacetime itself like a complex fluid system. The rifts weren't random tiers. They were more like pressure releases in an overtaxed pipeline. "Your quantum technology isn't just failing near the rifts," Torres explained to the assembled alien scientists. "It might be causing them. The sheer density of quantum manipulation across your civilization is putting stress on the fabric of spacetime itself." The revelation hit the Concordat representatives hard. Their most advanced technology, the very foundation of their civilization, was threatening to tear reality apart. The solution would require something they had never considered: scaling back. Rodriguez stood at the makeshift plotting table, surrounded by both human and alien crew members. "We need to construct pressure release points," she explained. "Controlled rifts, using technology simple enough to survive the quantum interference." The next 72 hours saw an unprecedented collaboration. Human engineers worked alongside Concordat scientists, combining ancient human engineering principles with the aliens' advanced understanding of spacetime. They designed massive mechanical structures, space-time relief valves that would allow the built-up quantum pressure to dissipate safely. It's like installing pressure relief valves in a steam engine. Torres explained to a fascinated group of Concordat engineers. Sometimes the old solutions are the best ones. The construction effort was unlike anything either civilization had attempted. The Endeavor's machine shops worked around the clock, manufacturing components using lathes, mills, and other manual tools. Concordat fabricators, stripped down to their most basic functions, produced materials to human specifications. As they worked, more rifts appeared throughout Concordat space. But now, guided by human predictions based on classical physics, ships could avoid the dangerous areas. The pattern was holding true. Humanity's understanding of basic physical principles was proving more valuable than the most advanced quantum computers. "Your species continues to surprise us," Harold transmitted from the Concordat flagship. "You've taken principles we considered primitive and used them to understand phenomena our most advanced science couldn't explain." Rodriguez watched from the Endeavor's bridge as the first relief valve was positioned. The massive mechanical structure, built from steel and titanium rather than quantum-engineered materials, hung in space like a monument to human ingenuity. "We never abandoned the basics," she replied. "Every human engineer learns how things work from the ground up. Sometimes, the most elegant solution isn't the most advanced one." As the device activated, the nearby quantum rift began to stabilize. Mechanical sensors showed the space-time distortions diminishing, channeled safely through the human design system. The Concordat's faith in humanity's primitive approach had been vindicated. "Perhaps," Luminous observed, watching the readings on a mechanical gauge, "true advancement lies not in abandoning the old ways, but in understanding when they remain the best solution. Humanity has taught us that progress isn't always about moving forward. Sometimes it's about remembering where you came from." News of humanity's success spread rapidly through the Concordat's vast networks. The quantum rifts that had threatened to tear their civilization apart were being contained by technology they had dismissed as primitive centuries ago. But the implications went far beyond the immediate crisis. In the Endeavor's main conference room, now serving as an impromptu cultural exchange center, Dr. Chen found herself explaining human educational philosophies to an attentive audience of alien scholars. "We believe in teaching fundamentals first," she explained, sketching on a simple whiteboard. "Before our engineers touch quantum computers, they learn how to use slide rules. Before they work with AI, they learn to solve problems with their own minds." The Concordat representatives exchanged troubled looks. Their civilization had increasingly relied on quantum systems for basic functions, to the point where many younger members had never learned the underlying principles of their technology. "We've become over-specialized," Luminous admitted, its energy form dimming slightly in what Chen had learned to recognize as embarrassment. "Our society advances by building upon existing quantum systems, but few understand how those systems truly work." Captain Rodriguez and Chief Engineer Torres had been invited to address the Concordat's Emergency Council, a gathering of representatives from thousands of advanced civilizations. The human officers stood before the vast assembly, their primitive dress uniforms a stark contrast to the quantum-engineered attire of their hosts. "The quantum rifts were a warning," Rodriguez stated, her voice carrying across the chamber. "Technology should enhance our capabilities, not replace our fundamental understanding." Torres stepped forward, holding up a simple mechanical watch. "This timepiece doesn't need quantum calibration or AI assistance. It's not as precise as your chronometers, but it will still tell time when all your advanced systems fail. That's the philosophy that saved your research vessel and helped us understand the rifts." The council chamber erupted in discussion. Species that had looked down on humanity's backward technology were now facing an uncomfortable truth. Their advancement had come at the cost of resilience. Back aboard the Endeavor, Lieutenant Martinez was conducting navigation classes for a mixed group of human and Concordat officers. The aliens watched in fascination as she demonstrated celestial navigation using nothing more than a sextant and paper charts. "Your quantum systems can plot courses with perfect accuracy," she acknowledged, "but what happens when they fail? These methods have guided human ships for centuries. They're not as precise, but they're reliable." The Concordat began implementing changes across their civilization. Quantum technology wouldn't be abandoned, but it would be supplemented by more basic systems. More importantly, they began requiring their people to understand the fundamental principles behind their advanced technology. "We're establishing new educational protocols based on your model," Harold announced during a joint session. "Future generations will learn as humans do, from the ground up, understanding each step before moving to the next." The Endeavor's success had implications beyond technology. The Concordat had long judged civilizations by their technological advancement, but humanity had demonstrated that true sophistication lay in understanding and adaptability. "Your species has given us something more valuable than a solution to the rifts," Luminous told Chen during a quiet moment in the lab. "You've shown us that progress isn't linear. Sometimes the best path forward requires a step back to basics." Rodriguez stood on her bridge, watching as Concordat ships practiced maneuvering using mechanical backup systems. The sight of the galaxy's most advanced civilizations learning from humanity's primitive methods was both humbling and inspiring. "We never set out to teach the galaxy a lesson," she remarked to her crew. "We just did what humans have always done: solve problems with whatever tools we have available." The Concordat's archives were being updated to include Earth's contributions to galactic knowledge. But these weren't records of advanced quantum theories or revolutionary new technology. Instead, they documented the fundamental principles that humanity had preserved and refined over centuries. "Your civilization's greatest achievement," Harold transmitted to Earth's United Nations, "isn't your ability to advance, but your wisdom in remembering where you came from. You've taught us that true resilience comes from understanding the basics, not just mastering the advanced." As the quantum rifts continued to stabilize under the watch of human-designed mechanical systems, the galaxy's most advanced civilizations began a journey back to basics. Humanity's legacy wouldn't be measured in quantum leaps forward, but in their role in helping the galaxy remember the importance of fundamental understanding. 6 months after the Endeavor's first mission, Earth had become the center of an unprecedented galactic renaissance. The planet's universities and technical schools were filled with alien students, all eager to learn what the Concordat now called the human approach, the art of understanding technology from its most fundamental principles. At the newly established Earth Concordat Academy in Geneva, Captain Rodriguez walked through halls filled with beings from across the galaxy. Some floated as pure energy, others moved on crystalline appendages, but all were here to learn from humanity. "It's still hard to believe," she remarked to Dr. Chen, who had become the Academy's first dean. "A year ago, they thought we were barely worth contacting. Now they're studying our primitive methods like they're revolutionary discoveries." Chen smiled, watching a group of energy beings carefully practicing with mechanical tools. "Sometimes the most valuable lessons are the ones we never forgot to begin with." The quantum rifts had been fully stabilized using the human-designed mechanical systems, but their impact on galactic civilization went far beyond the immediate crisis. The Concordat had begun a comprehensive review of their technological development, looking for other areas where they had sacrificed fundamental understanding for advancement. Chief Engineer Torres had become a sought-after speaker at technical conferences across the galaxy. Today, he stood before a vast audience of alien engineers, a simple mechanical engine displayed behind him. "Before you can build a quantum drive," he explained, "you need to understand the basic principles of thrust and propulsion. Before you can develop AI, you need to know how to solve problems yourself. Technology should enhance our capabilities, not replace them." The changes weren't limited to education and technology. The Concordat's entire approach to evaluating civilizations had shifted. Lieutenant Martinez now served on their first contact advisory board, helping to develop new criteria for assessing developing species. We were wrong to judge solely by technological advancement, Harold admitted during a council session. Humanity has shown us that a civilization's true worth lies in its understanding, adaptability, and wisdom in knowing when to use which tools. The Endeavor's original mission had expanded into something far greater. The ship now led a joint human concordat fleet, combining the best of both civilizations' approaches. Advanced quantum systems worked alongside mechanical backups, each complementing the other's strengths. "Watch this," Lieutenant Tanaka demonstrated to a group of communication officers. Her hands moved between a quantum interface and an old-style Morse key. When both systems work together, we're more capable than either alone. But perhaps the most profound change was in how the galaxy's advanced civilizations viewed themselves. The quantum rifts had exposed a vulnerability in their reliance on advanced technology, but humanity had shown them a way to become stronger without sacrificing progress. "Your species has given us a great gift," Luminous told Rodriguez during a quiet moment aboard the Endeavor. "You've taught us that advancement isn't about leaving the past behind. It's about building upon it wisely." Earth's position in the galactic community had been transformed. Human engineers, scientists, and teachers were now highly sought after throughout Concordat space. But humanity remained true to its principles, maintaining its focus on fundamental understanding even as it embraced new technologies. 1 year after the crisis, the Endeavor's crew gathered for a special ceremony. The ship had been chosen to house the Concordat's new archive of fundamental knowledge, a repository of basic principles and methodologies that would ensure future generations never lost sight of their technological foundations. This archive, Rodriguez announced to the assembled dignitaries, represents not just human knowledge, but a new understanding of what it means to be an advanced civilization. True progress isn't measured by how far we've gone, but by how well we remember where we came from. As she spoke, screens throughout the ship displayed images from across the galaxy. Alien students learning mechanical engineering, quantum scientists studying basic physics, and hybrid systems that combined the best of both worlds. The quantum rifts had threatened to tear the galaxy apart, but humanity's primitive wisdom had brought it together in ways no one could have predicted. "The stars have always guided us," Rodriguez concluded, looking out at the vast expanse of space. "Not just with our advanced sensors and quantum maps, but with the same basic principles that helped our ancestors navigate the seas. As we move forward into this new era, we carry with us the lessons of our past, for they are the foundation upon which all true progress is built." The galaxy had changed, and humanity had been its catalyst, not through overwhelming force or superior technology, but through the simple wisdom of remembering that sometimes the oldest solutions are still the best ones. As the Endeavor set out on its next mission, it carried with it the promise of a future where progress and wisdom walked hand in hand, a future that humanity had helped the galaxy remember how to build.